What's up, guys? I'm Allie,
I'm Alex.
and this is
Pretty problematic. Okay, welcome back, everyone.
We're back. Next episode of Pretty Problematic, and today we're going to be doing something different. And we've done a true crime case before.
Yeah.
But this is different. This is a trial that we're going to be talking about today.
And we talked a little bit about Allie's experience with the jury duty, and then that episode with Nolan Wells. But this is a little different because the trial's happening right now. So,
yep.
Exciting.
Yeah, exactly. So the reason why we even want to talk about this case on the podcast, because I know we talk about a lot of things, right? Our podcast is not just one simple thing, but we always tie everything we talk about back to mental health, back to women going through things. I think our podcast has always tied every issue that we talk about back to that. So I think that this case is really important for mental health, and that's why we're doing our podcast today. We really care about physical health, like how we did a whole episode on that, and I've been wanting to do an episode on mental health for a long time, and I think this is the perfect time to do it because of what's going on in the world right now.
Yeah, I agree. I guess we talk a lot about like men also. But yeah, anyways, mental health, women, and just how it is a real thing. And a lot of times because it's not physical proof that someone is sick, even though there is physical proof, but not until really late or whatever. So I think it's really important, and it affects a lot.
Yeah, and we've also already touched a little bit on postpartum in one of our episodes before. These are big things that we love to talk about and that we're really passionate about, and so this just goes along with that. And again, we're not technically genre as a true crime podcast, but everything that we're going to talk about leads back to what we essentially talk about in every single episode.
Yeah, and women's health, and just like a lot of situations that seem problematic that we as women have, because we are going through a lot. We have so much on us as mothers, especially in today's society. I feel like it's not built for us at all to thrive. So,
and I think it's important that we talk about it. And I think what we are going to talk about is pretty problematic. So
it is.
There's a lot going on if you've been online lately.
Yeah, if you've been on that side of TikTok,
I feel like TV, or
true,
everywhere, the news.
Yes, we had another plan of something else we're going to talk about actually, but this just kind of has spiraled, and it's like, how can we not talk about this?
Exactly. So this week we are going to talk about the Lindsay Clancy trial. And I think I really want to start this episode out by just kind of stating a couple things. First of all, we've been spiraling, like you said, for the last 8 days of this trial. We've been voice notes, back and forth, theories, facts, evidence. Like, we have been deep diving. And we did have another topic that we were going to talk about, and we had to push that back.
Literally, I was like, wait, actually, because I was looking up other things to talk about today, and then this just kind of came up a couple days ago. So
yeah, and I want to say before we even start that this case, we have to remember, it involves heinous, horrible crime against innocent children, and we have to be respectful about that. There's a lot of parties involved here that have gone through a really tragic, horrible thing, and I don't want to forget that when we go into this case.
Yeah, I think just seeing it so much, now they're talking about it in trial and everything, it is easy maybe to forget and get into all of it, but it's like, this actually not, it's terrible.
This is people's real lives.
Yeah, it's actually disgusting, everything that happened. So tragic, sickening, honestly. So
and then again, that brings me to another thing I wanted to say. I saw a really ignorant, closed-minded video by a young lady on TikTok talking about how if you empathize with this woman, or if you are saying that he did it, or anything along the lines of that you should block her and seek medical help, and that it's disgusting, and that you should have your children taken away from you if you're empathizing with this woman. That is very close-minded, and you are the problem. I think it is really important to talk about mental health in women, and I think that the way that we prevent these tragedies is by being educated and understanding it. Yeah, because she said a lot of people are saying, oh, that could have been me. And she's saying how if you're having those thoughts that there's something wrong with you and you need to seek mental help. Okay, you're proving the point.
Yeah.
Yes, you need to seek mental help.
It's not okay. Obviously, we're not justifying it. It's just like, how did if this woman did this, why couldn't she get help? Why did it get this far?
And to know the signs, you have to be educated on this. And you're saying, and you've never gone through postpartum psychosis. I've never gone through postpartum psychosis, okay? But it could happen to anybody. That's what we're trying to say. And if you miss the signs, then tragedies happen like this. And I think it's really closed-minded to just say, you shouldn't talk about it, you shouldn't discuss it, and that's disgusting. I don't think so. I think people opening their minds and becoming educated on postpartum and postpartum psychosis, postpartum depression is really important. So I think people that say that, you can leave right now, because we are going to go into everything here and we're going to talk about it, and it's going to get real. So if you can't handle that, you should seek medical help. I don't yeah, but yeah. So again, this is not to spread misinformation. This is not to create harmful theories, and all of that is not to be harmful. And it can get harmful if, misinformation is spread. So we are going to go into what is being talked about that is not true, and a little bit more beyond that. But it really does need to be talked about. And I think that it is okay to have these discussions, and it is okay to talk about your feelings. So yeah, this is how we learn.
Exactly. Okay, with that being said, we're going to get into it.
Yeah, let's kind of go over what this case is about. I want to just do a brief overview. And I also want to say that before this trial, the whole general consensus was that Lindsay committed the murders. She tried to kill herself then after, and it was split between whether or not she did this under a psychotic episode or under cold-blooded, premeditated murder. That was the consensus.
So it was pretty much accepted that, yes, like, she was guilty of committing the crime, but like Ali said, was it under, like, was she aware of this, so she should be guilty of that, or was she planning on doing it and she was totally in her right mind?
Right. So yeah, the prosecutors now have the burden to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she did this premeditated, cold-blooded, and she was aware, and she was not in a psychotic episode. So that is what they have to prove. And I think there's a lot of reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
So far. And we're in the prosecution. We're not even at the defense yet. So
yeah, there's only been 8 days of this trial, and it could go like 4 to 6 weeks. So it could be long.
Yeah, it's going to be a long ride, and I think every day my husband is getting more annoyed of me.
Are you talking about it?
I'm like, hey, this happened, and hey, he has no idea about the case. I'm just like,
so funny.
Oh, I'm totally annoying him. And you know that picture, that meme where the guy's pointing to the wall and it's like all the pictures. Oh yeah, and he's stressed out. That's me in my room right now. That's clearly me. I have like 4 different pages of notes just for this episode, and I could have written 17. That's how much. Yeah. And when the trial's going, I'm like, don't talk to me right now. I'm in court. And again, as a person who's been on a jury, this is hitting different for me, because now I know how it works. I have been on a jury, and I've been on a jury in a criminal trial. Though it was only 5 days, it was a trial, including it was a crime against children. And so it has similar aspects. And so going through that has put me in a different place now when I'm looking at this case and this trial.
Like, kind of how it works, and where there are a lot of gaps or negligence by policemen. Like, they're not doing the thorough investigation in a lot of situations. So
yeah. And I know now, because I've been in the jury, and I know how the jurors think as a team, and I know how it goes. Obviously, my thoughts on this case and opinions are not going to actually matter in the verdict, but I think it's important that the public does have opinions on this, and that they do watch this trial, because it is important for mental health.
Okay, so to summarize what happened really quickly, it was January 24th, 2023. Patrick, Lindsay's husband, went out to run a couple errands, and when he got back, this is what the storyline goes as he said it. So he came back and found Lindsay outside the house, jumped from her bedroom window, tried to commit suicide. And there was the 3 kids strangled in the basement.
So the 3 children passed away, and Lindsay survived. And I think it's because she was hypothermic that saved her.
Yes.
But she didn't die, and she is paralyzed, and she had multiple injuries. And so that's kind of like the basis of what happened. I think there's so much in this case leading up to it that I don't really want to get into tonight because there's just too much. If we were going to do this, it would be way more than the 40 minutes that we're planning on doing. It would be 8 days.
Yeah.
So we can't really go into it.
Yeah, and also this is just like the beginning part of the trial. We haven't even heard the defense or Lindsay speak at all. So that's just like the general overview of what happened and what like the public has known up until this point. And now they're like getting into more details and timelines. So we're going to kind of go over what's been said and like what we know.
And we were saying how the general public was pretty decided that she's done this and just split on how she did it. But I think what's crazy is a lot of people are acting like this is the first time they've ever seen a postpartum psychosis case in their lives. There are many cases where women kill their children and themselves during a postpartum psychosis. And for some reason, all of a sudden, postpartum psychosis isn't real. This is crazy. It's it is just wild to me how many people are not remembering all of the other cases in the history of time that have happened. And it's so sad. And I think that's also why we should talk about this, because it's happened before many times.
It has happened a lot, and maybe it hasn't had this much public attention because it was maybe really obvious what happened. But yeah, it does happen a lot, so.
Yep. I think what we're going to do is just get into our questions, and basically we're going to run through the timeline that Patrick's giving, and also we're going to just kind of go with the theories we're seeing online. These are not our theories. We didn't come up with these. And we're going to give our opinions. We're going to talk about a little bit of the misinformation given. But yeah, we're not going to go through what happened before and what led up to it, even though that's a lot and it does have a lot of relevance. But we just don't have time. So we're going to go through basically what our main questions are, what the holes are in the timeline, and get into some theories.
Yeah.
I pulled this from the trial, from witness testimony, prosecution. So I made sure that the times added up with the trial. There's a lot going on. So
yeah,
it's really hard to pinpoint down everything. So like I said, we're not experts. We're just kind of going to give briefly what happened here. But so let's start with the timeline.
Yeah. So this is just kind of the timeline of the whole day. So the first thing we know, 8 a.m., Lindsay takes Cora, which is the daughter, to the pediatrician, and Patrick is at home with the two boys, Dawson and Callan.
All right, then we have 8:17 a.m. Patrick texts a picture of Dawson to Lindsay, and it's a picture of him. He got dressed up all by himself for the first time, and they're really happy about this, and so he sends that photo to Lindsay.
Okay, so then at 8:18 a.m., Lindsay sends a picture of Cora from the doctor's appointment.
Yep, she's like on the table where she's getting examined.
Okay.
And then 9:40 a.m., Lindsay checks the My Chart from the appointment for Cora and texts Patrick about the results for her urine sample. And she's relieved in this text and says that they looked good. So she checks My Chart, so that's verified at 9:40 a.m.
Okay, and then at 11:42 a.m., Lindsay texts a picture of the kids making a snowman. I think it was like the family group text or something. His mom, someone in the family.
Yes, I think so, because then I think this next one says 4 p.m. Lindsay texts with her mother.
And then at 4:13 p.m., Lindsay searches a takeout restaurant called 3V, and then she kind of just looks up on Google Maps or whatever how far it is.
Yep. So she's searching on Apple Maps the directions from her house to 3V. So at 4:47, Lindsay calls CVS and speaks to the manager about Miralax. Okay.
This is the part where we have an issue with.
Before even actually, I have a little bit of an issue with the 3V because they're saying that this is part of the prosecution is saying that she is searching the distance from 3V and her home because she's premeditating time and trying to get him out of the house and seeing how much time he'll be gone. I don't think that searching directions on your maps to a restaurant that you're going to get takeout from is a proof of premeditated murder. I really don't. And I also beg to differ that it could have been either of the two that live in the home and have access to the computer.
Yeah, I think that just shows that she was maybe searching even for like the phone number or the website. Because when I'm gonna do takeout, I always look it up on Apple Maps and then I find the phone number to call. Like I always do that. I don't
And
search
I
on
almost
Google.
always even click the directions too
Same.
to see how far it is. Because I'm also wondering how long it's going to be till I eat. Because I'm a hungry person and I get antsy and I want to know how long it's going to take me to get this food. So there could be so many
There's
reasons.
just a lot of things.
That's a very...
Yeah. But then the CVS. So she's calling, is looking for...
She's looking for Miralax when she calls CVS, but she doesn't know what they carry. So Miralax is a stool softener. Yeah. He called about Miralax. I wonder if they have a child's version, but let's go to the testimony of the CVS. This is our first hole and question in the timeline that we have and that a lot of people have. Okay, so I'm basing my facts here off of the testimonies of the CVS manager. She testifies in this trial. Her name is Angela Kraus. And then I'm also taking the side of Patrick's testimony as well, where I'm getting these facts that we're going to go through. So she calls and this is from the testimony of Angela. She does receive a call from Lindsay. I think it's Lindsay. I think that saying it's not is kind of a conspiracy. I don't think anybody else is calling. Yeah. I do think this is Lindsay. Yeah. It is a woman, though. This is what she testifies. It was a woman on the phone. When she was coherent and she did not slur her words and she was not sounding impaired. This is what Angela testifies. And then she says that Lindsay called and asked about Miralax. She said, we carry Pedialax because she specified that is this for children or adults? And then she told her that they do carry stool softeners for children and that they carry Pedialax. And then she told them that they carry the Pedialax and it's in aisle 13 and 20. So she tells her, yes, it's in stock. This is what we carry. It's Pedialax and it's in aisle 13 and 20. Yep. So we know this. We know it's there. And we know it's in stock. Okay, so then at 4:53 p.m., Lindsay texts Patrick about her takeout plans, how she wants him to go pick up the food at 3B. Yep. And then at 5:10, Lindsay calls to order the takeout. And then she tells Patrick to pick up the Pedialax. Okay. At 5:15, Lindsay sends a text to Patrick telling him to pick up the Pedialax from CVS. Okay, so... and this is what the prosecutor said when questioning Patrick on the stand. She said, at 5:15, you receive a text from Lindsay as you're on your way out the door that says Pedialax. This is a reminder. I do this all the time with my husband. I tell him, go get these groceries. He says, text it to me. I'm not going to remember. Yeah. This is just how men or even women work. Like, I'm not going to search around for something that I don't know what it is. Either send me a picture of it or send me a text. And like this is what they're doing in this situation. She sends that text at 5:15 and it says Pedialax. That's what the prosecutor said. It says Pedialax. So yeah, 5:32, Patrick arrives at CVS and there's a camera footage of him entering while he's in the store. He calls at 5:33. She doesn't answer. Then she calls back at 5:34. The call lasts 14 seconds. And Patrick is saying, in that call, he was telling her that they didn't have the Pedialax, that brand, but they had a CVS, like off-brand. Okay. So that's where we have an issue because this is our first. Yeah, this is where it doesn't add up in the story with Patrick because there's a picture from the crime scene where in the bag you can clearly see that there's Pedialax, Fleet brand Pedialax. Yes. So that was a lie from Patrick because why would he say there wasn't? Why would he call her to tell her there wasn't when he ended up buying that? Right. He calls her and says, there's the off-brand. Is that okay? She says, yeah, that's fine. That's what he says in his testimony. And that's where we'd have an issue with it because that's not true. Why would you say that? Does that make him irresponsible? No. Not, but it's just showing that he's not being honest. Like, that didn't happen. Yes. And then not even to mention that it's in the crime scene photo. You can see it through the bag. If you're skeptical about that, it's also on the receipt. It's also been testified in court by the CVS manager who pulled the receipt for Fleet Pedialax. So he purchased this item. He purchased the item that Lindsay sent him. So there was no reason for him to call and say there wasn't that. That is what gets me. Why would he do that? It's just... it is a contradictory statement, which is not the first one we're seeing this.
That's the issue. It's a pattern of him saying things that just don't add up. Another thing that happened, they found out in the trial, they brought it to him, is that there's also, so he said he got the text at 5:15 and then he left the house. CVS is 3 minutes away and he didn't arrive there till 5:32. There's an email sent from his laptop, Surface Pro, at 5:24. So obviously he was home sending the email. That's most probable. I mean, there's no way to like guarantee. Maybe he had it in the CVS parking lot and sent it, but most likely he works from home. His laptop is at home, so and he sent an email. A corporate email. So
yes, people are saying this is the gotcha moment of the case where the timeline breaks because the email is never mentioned in the timeline, and once this comes out by the defense, the prosecutor, they are scrambling. She's leading questions saying, couldn't it be possible that you were in your car sending this email from your phone? Couldn't it be possible you sat in the parking lot for 10 minutes and were sending emails? And he says, I don't know. I guess I could be on it could have gone from my phone. How do you not know?
No. I mean, I get that it was like over 3 years ago, but also you're going to know
where you sent
your email from. And now that we're seeing these kind of like things that don't add up, it adds suspicion. And so
there are like, I guess, ways you can look at it. Like I said, I'm going to play, if this is not him, and which, do I even believe that he did this? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I also don't know that she did this. I have reasonable doubt on both sides. So
it's just because there's not clear evidence of either of just one person being solely responsible. And I think
this happens a lot in family cases too, because everybody's in there. The evidence at this point, the DNA evidence, doesn't even matter. No, they're all living in that house. All of their DNA is going to be on everything.
Exactly.
It was on everything. It's just, it comes down to the lies and the contradictory statements, the testimonies. That's what's coming down to, and that's what's creating the reasonable doubt. And the defense is crushing it. The prosecution is doing no good. They are, if anything, it almost sounds like she's interrogating Patrick half the time. It feels like he's on trial when she's questioning him.
It does.
It's weird.
Like it is super weird. And even just like his facial expressions, I mean, that doesn't prove anything, but he's fidgeting, moving around, he gets nervous. When they mention the email, his face kind of drops. It looked, and the judge
had a full on like head twist. Like, it was crazy.
He looked like, what was that? Kind of like in shock.
Yeah, because this is new information. And again, he said, I don't know, it could have been sent from my phone. No, I definitely sent that from my phone when I was sitting in the parking lot for 10 minutes in the CVS. That didn't come from him. That came from his lawyer. And, well, the prosecution. It came from the prosecution.
He just agrees to everything.
And he just said, yeah, I think.
I think that seems to be the answers to everything. Like, it could be. Yeah,
this
possible.
Is the reason why people are having these conspiracies and theories and crazy. It's because they put this guy on the stand and he's just butchering it. It is not good. He's either not prepared, lying, or I don't know.
Or he's like guilty and hiding something and probably didn't know what to expect. I mean, like we said, this was a trial to decide the fate of Lindsay. It wasn't even supposed to be a questioning of him.
Not at all. And now it feels like it's his trial.
Yeah, so he might not have been prepared, but also the fact that he's, I don't know, like just not, he's lying. So I don't know. That just doesn't look good.
It doesn't look good.
Okay, so then
okay, yeah. So that's basically the end of that question there. We know the Pedialax was there. He bought the Pedialax. One thing I was talking with my husband about is he's like, well, maybe he just called her and said, hey, there's this off-brand. Is that okay? And then he hung up and saw the Pedialax and grabbed it and left because that's what she wanted.
Yeah.
There's reasonable explanations for things that happen. Men do this all the time too. He says, like my husband, he goes to the store to get something and he'll text me and be like, they don't have it. I know they have it. They always have it. Well, but it's fine.
Guys
but then he sees it, he'll get it and he'll come home with it. And I'm like, see, it was there.
Yeah.
Guys do this stuff all the time. So it could have happened. But I want to know why they didn't press him and say, why did they not question him and say, okay, but you bought the Pedialax, so why are you saying that it's an off-brand? Then he could have responded with, oh, I called her because I saw the off-brand, but right when I hung up, I saw the Pedialax.
That's the thing. It's just lack of information. You're on a freaking murder trial, and you're just gonna leave out those details.
Just don't even question a follow-up question to you completely contradicting a statement or proof. Like, that's what I want to know, because there could be totally a reasonable explanation to why he got the Pedialax, and you know what I mean? There could be.
And if that's like literally his alibi, then he needs to explain it better. You know?
Yep. Okay, next.
Yeah.
At 5:54, Patrick arrives to 3V to pick up the food.
Yeah, and there is video footage of that, and this is where we have a little bit of...
There's another hole here. This is not a huge one, but this is definitely... people are spiraling on this a little bit on the internet.
Yeah, there is video footage for him in CVS and in the restaurant CV, and the lighting, this is why it's not super hard evidence.
This doesn't get me as much as the other ones do.
Honestly, yeah, it looks like he's wearing a different outfit and different shoes. And so it's like, okay, that was in the span of 20 minutes. So it just
did he go home and change?
Yeah,
that's weird.
So, but we don't know, and it's hard to tell on the cameras. So they're not good quality, bad lighting. So we're kind of like iffy, but a lot of people in the internet are spiraling for that.
Yes. This is the one, again, I don't agree.
It's because there's a photo, like I mentioned, of in the bag, you can tell that there's Pedialax in there. We've already proven that it is by the receipt, but that just shows a picture. There's a bag with Pedialax inside, and then there's a white shirt next to it.
Inside out.
And it's like,
what is that?
What? So just the fact that we're already questioning, does he wearing the same thing? And then there's a white shirt right there, and it looked like he was wearing the white shirt at CVS, and then it looks like he was wearing like a greenish gray shirt in 3V. It's just, why, you know?
That is another thing that like adds to that clothing theory. And the clothing theory, like you said, the boots and the shoes. So the theory goes that he was wearing boots when he arrived at CVS, and then when he got to 3V, he's now wearing tennis shoes with the white bottoms. But I've looked at this video over and over and over again, and I now can't tell the difference between the shoes. They look the same to me in the video, unless I'm like not closely looking at them. The lighting is really bad, and the shape of them, they do look similar to me. I'm not gonna lie. And I understand a lot of people are like, no, those are different shoes. Yeah, I think what you want to think, but I can't see it.
And even with like, it looked like in CVS he was kind of wearing like a quarter zip or whatever. Then I was like, well, maybe it's the light. It's just reflecting. So I don't want to like take that as like that's it, you know?
No, yeah, it's hard for me to tell. Let that go.
Let that one slide.
But yes, it does look like he's wearing a white shirt, a quarter zip at CVS, and then at 3V, he's wearing a full zip and a gray t-shirt. He unzips it all the way, and you see the t-shirt. So
it's not white. It doesn't.
It's not white. It's just like gray and it has decals on it. It's not white. So
I don't know. There's something odd. It's just a little weird, but not enough to be like,
it's not enough for me.
Not enough
to say that. But also with the shoes, that does make me a little skeptical. Is when he arrives to the house, the first thing he does is take off his boots.
He said he took off his boots, but in the videos he's not wearing boots. Shoes. They're like running shoes.
But then people are like, well, some people just call their tennis shoes their boots,
but they look like tennis shoes. I don't know. Yeah. Oh yeah. So like he could call
that adds to it. That's like a thing.
It's just like, okay. So like I said, maybe the clothes is not clear evidence, but it's just some little thing that looks a little fishy.
Yeah, I would agree that this is not like a smoking gun.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're not 100% about the clothes. I'm not going to keep that in my mind, really.
Because it looks suspicious, but it's not concrete evidence because it's hard to tell with the cameras.
Yeah, unless something changes with that, then that's not really a huge question in my mind at this point. Okay, so now we're going to move through the timeline. We're going to 5:54, which is when Patrick arrives at the 3V to pick up the food. I've also seen footage of this. You can see him walk in. A lot of people are saying that he's looking at all the cameras.
It looks like he like bent over and he like unzipped his jacket. It was kind of weird, but
he did do that. And then he's in line and he's actually looking at his phone, doing something on his phone. So a lot of people want to know what he was doing. But again, this trial is not a trial for Patrick.
Yeah.
So we're not going to know those things unless there's ever a trial for Patrick, right? So this is about Lindsay. So this is not about him. So he gets the food and he gets it at 5:54. And then he goes home, and it says that he arrives home, and then in his testimony, he said that when he gets home, he pulls up in the driveway and parks, and then the prosecutor says, so you pull up in the driveway and both cars are in the driveway, and he says yes. And then he goes into the house and he calls out for everybody. No, first thing he does is take off his boots.
He says his boots.
He takes off his boots. Then he calls out for everybody, supposedly, and he doesn't get an answer. So at this point, he goes looking. They say that he goes and looks in the basement because the light is on, but he doesn't look all the way down there, which I don't really understand that part. But I think he calls down to the basement, right? And then he gets nothing there, and he can't find Lindsay.
Yeah.
Right. So at this point, he says that he calls her on her phone and she doesn't answer. And this is at 6:09. That's when the phone call is. Okay. And he says it's because he didn't see her. He couldn't hear anyone in the house. And then he didn't see her car outside because it's dark and her car was black. Now, this is another...
Right after he said he parked next to her car. So that's another thing. He contradicts himself within like 10 seconds.
Again.
Yeah.
Yeah, within like the exact...
It was
the next question.
Yeah.
And this is something they don't even follow up with any questions. They don't say, wait, didn't you just say that you saw the car in the driveway? Nothing. Yeah. So that is another hole for me. And it's weird because why would he be lying or forgetting? I just don't see how that this is possible.
Yeah.
How do you park in the driveway next to your wife's car, then you go inside and say, I think she's gone, so I'm going to call her on the phone because I can't see her if her car's outside.
Yeah, this doesn't make any sense.
And that's the reason he calls. So this is very weird to me. It puts a hole in the timeline.
Yeah, and if you know that she's home and he's not searching everywhere, like if it was me, I'd be looking in every single room. You know, like...
Oh, yeah. I'd be like looking around. I wouldn't just be calling her.
Yeah.
They seem to do this a lot, texting each other and calling each other inside the home on this specific day. Yeah. And it's just really weird to me. So he heads upstairs where he finds that their bedroom door is locked. Okay, so now he has a key to this bedroom door, I guess taped on the back of another door, and he opens the door. And this is when he discovers that there's blood everywhere. And he describes this as as if a hose went off of blood. And then he sees the window open, and he said he only gets 2 steps into the room, and then he leaves to go outside because he sees the window open. And also, I think we're going to go into this a little bit, but the Wi-Fi, this is our next part in the timeline, where at 6:11 is the 911 call, right?
Yeah, and that's when the police are dispatched.
They're dispatched, yes. So they asked him on the stand, why did it take you 9 minutes to call 911 from when you got home? And he said because he tried calling, but it kept switching from the Wi-Fi to the cell service back and forth.
Yeah,
and that he couldn't the 911.
Which isn't true. That's not how it works. And there's been many people who have said that's not
how 911 works. Okay, we have talked about this. You don't need Wi-Fi to call 911. Any tower, cell tower, any phone you use, you can use a phone without a SIM card to call 911. Yeah. You can use a phone that's been, as long as it has power, and you press 911 and there's a cell tower nearby, which we know is true because he's calling Lindsay as well. So we know he has cell tower service. Yeah. Any call is going to go through directly to 911. You don't need Wi-Fi. So this is a really weird...
Something else that looks weird is that he realizes the window's open, then he goes outside to look for Lindsay. And then why is he not concerned about the kids right away? I don't know. It's like if he goes in, he sees all this blood everywhere, and he's not wondering where the kids are.
Right.
It's like, okay.
Right. So he finds Lindsay. Okay. Now she's found with her head towards the house and her feet towards the street, which riddle me that. How do you jump out of a building and land that way? How do you... I can't even think about the physics of that. You jumped feet first and then flipped in the air. I just don't... I mean, it could happen. Obviously it did happen, but someone tell me how the physics of that work. It's weird. And she's found with cuts on her wrists, her neck, and also that she had pills in her system. All the drugs that she was taking were taken as well. Okay, yeah. So she just fell out of a window, we're assuming. She has spinal fluid coming out of her nose, and she is severely injured. Almost dead at this point
Yeah.
and severely hypothermic. But Patrick testifies that when he found her, he said, "What happened?" She said, "I tried to kill myself." She spoke these words to him with a crushed thyroid and 3 spinal injuries. And then he said, "Where are the kids?" She said, "In the basement." So she was speaking at this point.
Even though all the police that arrived said that she was in and out of consciousness. Nonverbal.
So every witness testimony, there were like a couple, it wasn't just one. Multiple people testified that she did not have the ability to speak. So either she rapidly declined from those minutes that he found her, and I guess that could happen, but it's just really crazy to me that she would be able to speak in that condition. Medically, I just have a hard time believing that she spoke to him those words.
Yeah, and she was also severely hypothermic. Her temperature was 82 degrees. And so if this all really did happen in this timeline that fast, in 30 minutes, she dropped that low. And there's been many nurses, medical professionals saying that that's impossible. Not possible that fast.
Yeah.
So it just shows that, like, there's something. There's a lot of little things that nothing is adding up all the way.
The timeline is off to me, and there's a lot of contradictions. So this is why I think people are coming up with this theory that Patrick had something to do with this. And nobody had this theory before. This only happened when they put him on the stand.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people that are not fully grasping this theory or even entertaining this theory are saying that it's only because you guys don't think that a woman could kill her children, and you know what I mean? So they're saying that, but it's like, no, this is actually based on history of family annihilators, and this happens all the time. So it's not just something we just came up with because we don't think that a woman could kill her children.
Yeah, because we know that happens, and it has a lot, but this case specifically, there's just a lot of red flags, and no one knew about this because there's no investigation done. But now that he's getting up to share his side, it's just he's looking kind of suspicious.
Yeah, I think he definitely looks a little more suspicious than the prosecution wanted him to have looked. Yeah, I think that the prosecution is not doing well, and they're not. I mean, the defense is doing great. Her attorney, Kevin Reddington, is amazing. Yeah. And his past, I mean, he has tried over 100 criminal murder trials. Wow. Obviously, he has a lot of experience, and just you can tell by the way he cross-examines, it is just he is meant for this. He's a great attorney. He's definitely laying grounds for reasonable doubt, at least in my mind, and I think in a lot of other people's minds. So he's definitely doing his job. I know that his reputation is for taking complex cases involving severe mental health struggles. So he has a lot of experience with this type of case. So yeah, the defense is doing its job. And I think that's why people are coming out with these theories. I think some misinformation is being spread around, which is not good, but the theories aren't coming out of thin air. I think Patrick's testimony doesn't add up. There's parts that don't make sense. And the problem is that, like you said, the investigation really wasn't done. They're basically going off of his word. I mean, there was an investigation, but it wasn't against him. They ruled him out very early.
Just because of the history of her
mental health.
Yeah, because obviously she was on many different antidepressants, and her journals basically admitting that she's suffering from these suicidal thoughts. So it all just like from just looking at it and then believing what Patrick said, it seemed maybe they didn't have a reason to look into it more.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. But I just think if you get, I mean, obviously the DNA is, to me, irrelevant because they all live in the home. There's DNA on everything. But doesn't that warrant an investigation against him too? Because his DNA is also on all of the bands. It's just like, just because he lives there doesn't immediately rule him out. I think they should have investigated further. Yeah. And they're missing key points. I think another thing that people are really upset about that they didn't investigate was her Apple Watch. Yeah. They didn't even open the drawer. They didn't, where the knife was sitting on that drawer. They didn't even open that drawer, the police. They didn't gather the evidence in there, which was many pill bottles. Yep. Which, you know, the defense does not like that because they're trying to prove that she was medicated and having a psychotic break, and then they didn't take her Apple Watch, which has so much data on it, like from not even just where she was, what she was doing, calls, nothing. Not besides that, Apple Watches track your heart rate, they track your temperature. We could have had so much information that we don't have because of this.
Yeah.
It's actually crazy. And I think what's crazy is like Apple Watch is actually, they advertise it for that reason. Have you seen, there's an ad where the old man is wearing the watch and he falls and he's like, Apple Watch saved my life because it called emergency services for me. So there's a big, huge arguments going on about this and how they didn't even collect that as evidence.
Because some people are thinking that Patrick was making the calls from the Apple Watch. That's just a crazy conspiracy theory, maybe. But if they would have looked into it more, you can tell where the calls are being made from.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah, there's a lot of theories going around. And I think it's because the investigation wasn't complete. And I think that's why a lot of people are coming out and putting holes in their story and just trying to figure it out themselves.
Yeah,
at this point.
True.
We've all become investigators.
Like, oh, we got this 50s on this case. There's no.
That's crazy.
So, yeah.
Because we're a podcast, we're obviously going into these theories that are spreading around online like wildfire. I'm not saying that any of these are true. And this is not a trial for Patrick, like we said before. We're not saying that he did it. We're just looking at the facts of the trial and we're kind of being our own jurors right now. And we're just trying to figure out what happened. But I think misinformation is really harmful. And so obviously if we've said anything that's untrue, like fact check us. But besides that, I have heard there's a lot of rumors going around, and I do want to address just a few that are just complete misinformation. First of all, there's a rumor that Patrick's brother is the police chief of Massachusetts.
Or like in their town that he was in the police department or chief.
Yes. Yeah. This is not true. They're not family. They're not like familial. No, this is not true.
Yeah, and another one was that Patrick's DNA was on all of the exercise bands, but Lindsay wasn't.
That's not true.
That's not true.
If you listen to it's really hard to understand this part of the testimony because it's a lot of jargon of medical stipulation, and it's really hard to understand. So a lot of people are not understanding the DNA, the evidence, the science. But this is just untrue. Lindsay's DNA was on
all of them.
At least,
At least the ones.
At least the ones. So I think, that needs to be like put. And again, I don't think that the evidence on the DNA on the bands really is relevant at all because no matter what whose DNA, they're all using them in the house. So I don't think that's relevant unless maybe it was wiped clean or there's other reasons why DNA would be relevant. But in this case, I just don't think so. Also, there's misinformation saying that there are absolutely no fingerprints on the knife. They were not usable to identify though. They're smudged. The handle of the knife was rigid and they just couldn't pull a good fingerprint for it. But there were prints on the knife. It just was not usable to actually make any identification.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. And then also there's people saying that the kids were drugged, and that's not true.
Yeah, because a lot of people said, oh, they crushed up the pill, so they must have drugged the kids.
But
no, in the toxicology reports, there's no drugs in the kids' system, which is so sad. Oh, I can't even think about this.
I know. Like,
it's so sad.
Yeah, like no one talks about really like what they must have gone through. Like, can you imagine?
I can't even imagine.
I can't.
It's horrible.
Sickening.
I'm trying to like keep separate the emotion because it's like
the facts.
You have to, you just can't get involved. And when I was on a jury in my criminal case too, I had to separate myself from the emotional because you just can't think clear-minded when you're having such emotions for this because it's such it's like unimaginable, the situation.
It honestly seems like a movie, and I think a lot of times we're desensitized to those things because we see it a lot, but
I would spiral if I started thinking about it that way though. Yeah,
for sure.
Okay, so I think that is everything so far with the 8 days of trial. Like I said, we're not going over what led up to this occurrence because it's just too much to go through, but we're going to stay tuned. We're definitely going to be taking notes, and we'll keep you guys updated next week. And I'm really excited for the defense to come in and do their side, so we'll definitely be keeping updated and share the rest of the trial with you guys. But ending off with this, we have to to remember that the prosecution has the burden of proof and it needs to be beyond a reasonable doubt. And am I now convinced that Patrick did it? No, I'm not. I'm just not. But I'm also not convinced that she did it. So
or just one of them. I feel like there's probably something between both of them. They're both involved. That's what I think. But I don't think this is enough to prove either.
Yeah, I really don't. Now I'm even more confused than I was in the beginning. And so that's just how you know it's a complicated trial.
Yeah.
But at least we'll get some sort of conclusion at the end of the trial. And yeah, we'll keep you updated because we're spiraling over here.
Yeah, so that's everything for today.
It's 1:30 in the morning now, so we probably
should call it a night. But thanks so much for tuning in this week.
Yep, next week we'll probably get back to some more fun topics.
Hot takes, listener stories.
Listeners, yeah. But today we really felt like this was important and mental health is important. So if you're struggling, there's resources. I'll link them in the description below for you guys as well. But thank you again for watching and we'll see you next week.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.